Good morning, and I'm not made of money, as you can clearly see, which means, in turn, I can't always buy the greatest games of all time, because if you haven't heard, some of the greatest games of all time cost which means I will sometimes get games that I'm not 100% sure on, or I've never actually heard about. But then I'll get home, and wow, this game is really good. Some of these games are talked about a bit, but are very underrated. So with that said, I just wanted to take this time to talk to you about some of my favorite hidden gems in my collection, starting with Crackdown. As you may know if you watched my Sonic Spinball video, I recently got a Sega Genesis, and this might be the game I've played the most on the system. It's a bit more expensive than any of the games on this list, immediately throwing away the cheap games thing I said, but I can see why. For one, it's a very fun port of an arcade game of the same name, being much like an arcade-style version of the NES Metal Gear game. Second, it has the single most generic box art possible. It's just two dudes with guns. Not really anything special whatsoever. It should have really learned from Clue Clue Land. Anyway, the European box art is considerably more interesting, with the guy in the background breathing down the two guys' necks, and the one on the left clearly grasping the other one's buttocks. The gameplay, as previously mentioned, is just a more arcadey Metal Gear, but it's also really different for reasons I can't exactly point my finger at. If you're watching the gameplay in the background, you may have noticed that the window where, the actual gameplay happens is only about 25% of the screen, if not smaller. That was quite weird to me at first, but it only took about 5 minutes to get used to it, as two of the other HUDs are used all the time in the game, while the biggest is only used sometimes because it just alerts you of what type of enemy there are in the level and what type of weapons they use. The two very helpful ones are ammo and the map, so just from that, those are most likely helpful. The controls are a bit weird. Walking around is fine, but sometimes the shooting is a bit off, and the button mapping is a little weird. I've now figured out that you can change those button mappings, but since the controls were already built into my muscle memory by the time I found out you could do that, it wasn't much of an issue. Another downside is that almost the entire game is coded in slowdown. It isn't super apparent at first until you get to the level shown on screen, when there's virtually no slowdown, making it immediately noticeable to the point you can't unsee it. However, if you like arcade-style games and stealth games, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Next game I want to talk about is Driver 2. This game is one of the most fun driving games I've ever played. I got it because a few years ago, when Nick Robinson's video where he raved about Driver San Francisco as one of the most inventive games of the time, and also bought it with a Subway gift card. I just bought this one day on a whim because I had $10 to spare and remembered how good one of the sequels apparently was. I got home knowing full well that this was nothing like that other game, but it really surprised me. It has a generic story where you're an undercover cop that has to find suspects of a recent shooting. So you set out for clues, but instead of searching for them on foot, you crash your car multiple times over. There's really cool missions such as chasing down someone, crashing your car into them, finding out, oh no, wrong car, stealing another car, rinse, repeat, until you've done it 4 times. There's also missions where you have to not get too close to a car that you're chasing, but not too far away or else you lose them, which make me wish I was an NPC in this game. It's a well-rounded game in a genre I'd just describe as driving. It has huge maps that were very impressive for the PS1, which is how it became my first multi-disc game. The controls are a bit slippery, and the walking controls make me think this person doesn't know how to walk. If you enjoy racing games with a bit more of a mission-based feel, I think you should check this one out for a cool time. The next game on our list is the death of my non-existent reputation. Never doing that again. Flingsmash. This is a game you have 100% heard of and been told how it's garbage shovelware, but let me present my rebuttal. Objection! Okay, enough of that. This game was a pretty good way to first introduce the Wii Motion Plus, as it was mostly sold in a bundle with said controller, and is how I got my second one. It was a cool concept without being too terribly ambitious, which is good because if they had tried to be ambitious, it would have shown how bogus the Wii Motion controls really were. The controls are the main complaint of this game, and I guess I can see why. As is with any Wii game, the controls feel a bit off at all times and have a bit of delay. Also, swinging the Wii remote around constantly is a bit weird, as shown by this example. But despite this, it has quite nice level design, really creative bosses, and nice level themes. The music to go with these levels is very good and has honestly one of my favorite menu themes ever. I really wish I was joking. Anyway, I know you own this game if you have a Wii, so go give it another chance. I promise you'll be surprised. Or not. I'm not the almighty enjoyer of games with the best taste ever. Here's another game you've probably already heard of. Kirby Colossal Siege. Kirby Large Blitz. Kirby Mesopotamia Attack. Kirby Mass Attack is a Kirby spin-off used to show off the stylus controls for the DS. It has great music, which I have to immediately point out, but also really fun gameplay. You have to use your multiple Kirbys to take down enemies and solve puzzles. It's honestly much more difficult than I expected, but there's another thing I really like about this game, and it makes it stand out even more. The mini-games. I'm always a fan of some good, well-rounded mini-games, and this, much like Super Mario 64 DS, has one of the greatest minigame collections of all time. All of the games could easily be games on an earlier console on their own. Main ones that are special are Kirby Brawl Ball, which is just a better version of Kirby's Pinball Land. Kirby Quest isn't necessarily a game that could live a life on its own, but it's still fun. The one that is the most crazy is Strato Patrol EOS, which is a game that could easily be a full game on its own if on, say, the SNES, but this might even have better graphics than that console had. Anyway, with the Kirby spin-off fun blended together with the amazing minigame collection, this is a game that you should definitely check out. Our final game will definitely destroy my non-existent reputation if the Flingsmash thing didn't already. That being a game about literal babies on their search for a fictional dinosaur thing. Rugrats Search for Reptar. Rugrats Search for Reptar is a game about everybody's favorite orange VHS dwelling toddlers on an adventure to collect puzzle pieces to see Reptar. If you don't see why I like this, you're probably normal. It's a game that's a bunch of mini-games, there it is, that are quite creative and give a great deal of fun to anybody that just wants dumb fun. It's not at all a complex game, but it doesn't need to be. A lot of people defend quote-unquote kids games that are bad by saying, you aren't the demographic it was aimed towards. This is a good example of a kids game done right. It can be enjoyed by all ages. Also, it has the funniest horror movie chase music ever. This is also the only game on this list I genuinely see myself making a video about. So if the respect you have for yourself is on the decline, or you're a parent that's just tired of your small child playing M-rated games and then getting mad at the game publisher for making violent games rated M, you should totally give this game a shot. Anyway, I hope you were inspired to pick up a new game because of this video. I guess I'll try that YouTuber thing where they say to like and subscribe.